Alright, what's up guys? Got another video of what if Anakin Skywalker killed Palpatine instead of Count Dooku. But if you like this type of content, then be sure to subscribe for more what if / fanfics, lore, comics, reviews, and video essays, and just all things Star Wars. But with all that out of the way, why don't we just dive right on in. So the story starts during the events of Revenge of the Sith. Anakin and Obi-Wan boarded the Invisible Hand to rescue Chancellor Palpatine. Count Dooku appeared to knock out Obi-Wan and then dueled Anakin. But this time was different. Anakin had doubled in power since the last time they fought, and after defeating Dooku and cutting off both hands, he now held his lightsaber and Dooku's saber to the former Jedi Master's neck. Palpatine urged Anakin to kill Dooku, and the Sith looked in shock towards his master and realized he had just been a pawn. He was nothing but a tool to Palpatine, and he thought of everything he had done. Killing Master Yaddle, betraying the Jedi Order, all for what? To die here? Palpatine spoke to Anakin. Kill him now, and to do it. Anakin was hesitant, but Palpatine swayed him, and Anakin succumbed to his dark side tendencies. He was about to cut off Dooku's head when the Master shouted, "Wait!" This caused a momentary lapse in judgment from Anakin, causing him to stop. Anakin paused, waiting for what Dooku had to say. "Young Skywalker, what if I told you that the Sith control everything? The Senate, the very Republic itself. This war is just merely a stepping stone." Anakin scoffed. "Impossible. I know you're lying, just to save your own skin." Dooku responded, "There could be some truth to that, but do you ever stop to wonder why this war never seems to end?" Anakin pondered this. All the while, Palpatine sat in anger. He needed Dooku dead now. Dooku continued to speak. "The Chancellor is the Sith Lord you've been looking for. We've been working together since the very beginning." Anakin looked in shock towards Palpatine and he yelled, "You're lying. You have to be." He looked towards Palpatine and all he saw was a friendly smile. "Anakin, my boy, you can't listen to this separatist trash. All he does is utter lies." The Chancellor spoke to Anakin, but as Skywalker thought about it, the more it made sense. Everything in this war had led back to Palpatine, and in that moment, the Chosen One realized the man he saw as sort of a father figure was the Sith Lord. Everything that's happened was because of him. Padme's assassination attempts, the Clone Wars, everything, all because of him. Anakin dropped the blades from Dooku's neck and looked in anger towards Palpatine. He'd lied and manipulated him for years, and this made Skywalker angry. "You lied to me, to everyone," the Chosen One yelled in anger. Palpatine sighed. "I wish it hadn't come to this, but you leave me no choice, boy." Palpatine spoke. He continued on. "I am the Sith Lord, but I can offer you power. The Jedi are fools. Join me, and we can rule this galaxy as master and apprentice." Anakin responded, "I'll never join you." The Chancellor closed his eyes and nodded, and in that moment, he became free from his restraints and pulled a hidden crimson saber out and leapt towards Anakin. The Chosen One barely reacted in time and blocked with both sabers as the Sith Lord swung down on him hard. Anakin felt the power behind it, and it was unreal, and so the duel for the fate of the galaxy began. Palpatine flew across the room like a terrifying blur of death. Crimson blade struck against crimson and blue. Anakin used Form 3 to defend, but he struggled under Palpatine's power. The Chancellor switched between each lightsaber form to confuse Anakin, and this threw Skywalker off guard. Palpatine launched forward at blinding speed, and Anakin couldn't keep up, at least not by himself. But Obi-Wan woke up from being knocked out and moved the debris off and saw Dooku with his hands cut off, and he also saw Anakin dueling Palpatine. Obi-Wan was shocked, but he understood in that moment he needed to help his apprentice. He ignited his blue lightsaber and jumped into the fight to help Anakin. Skywalker saw his master arrive, and now Kenobi and his apprentice faced Palpatine together. Darth Sidious saw this and laughed. He would kill them both and escape this ship. The Invisible Hand began to fall apart, and every Force user then realized that it would soon explode due to the impending battle outside. But that didn't matter right now, as the Dark Lord stood before the two Jedi. Anakin held both his and Dooku's sabers, representing the balance of the Force, both light and dark, and Obi-Wan took a defensive stance, ready to end this. Palpatine launched forward with blinding speed, striking at both Jedi, but Obi-Wan blocked using Form 3 and Anakin would go into attack using Form 5. They were the perfect duo, but even so, Palpatine was stronger than anything they had ever encountered. He dodged and had fluid movements like Yoda, but had the control and power of Mace Windu, but they held their own. However, as Anakin went in for his strike, he was blasted with Force lightning and flew back, crashing into a wall. This allowed Palpatine the chance to fight Obi-Wan one-on-one. Kenobi struggled under Palpatine's power and was quickly getting overwhelmed, but as Anakin composed himself and stood back up, he saw Palpatine go for a fatal strike, but he wouldn't make it in time to help Obi-Wan. But Palpatine's blade stopped and the Sith looked in anger behind him to see Dooku using the Force without his hands to hold Palpatine in place. This allowed Anakin time to intervene, but Palpatine broke free from Dooku's grip and stopped Anakin with the Force. He choked Skywalker while he swung down on Obi-Wan, cutting off Kenobi's right arm. Anakin could only watch as Palpatine slammed him into Dooku, and then finished off Obi-Wan by cutting his head off. Anakin roared in anger, but Dooku held him down, telling him to steady himself and that his anger would lead to his downfall. Skywalker didn't want to listen to Dooku, but he realized he was right. His master wouldn't want him to succumb to his anger, and so Anakin took a heavy breath. He steadied himself and told Dooku he would need a distraction if he was going to beat Palpatine. Even with no hands, Dooku nodded, and the former enemies now turned allies readied themselves. Obi-Wan's head rolled to Palpatine's side as his body laid on the cold floor. Palpatine scoffed and kicked it out of his way, but also saw Anakin and Dooku teaming up. How cute, he thought. He would just kill them both now. Anakin launched forward with a determined look, and he took the offensive stance against Palpatine. He unleashed a barrage of attacks which Palpatine blocked, but the Sith felt Anakin getting stronger with each strike. But Sidious still had the upper hand. That was, however, until Dooku unleashed a massive force push that sent Palpatine flying into the wall. This caught him off guard, and before he could get a grip, Anakin rushed forward, cutting off both of his arms. Palpatine dropped to the floor and looked at Anakin. "I beg of you, I'm too weak. Please spare me." Anakin scoffed. "You don't deserve to live." And he once again succumbed to his dark side tendencies, but as Anakin was about to finish off Palpatine, he heard the Sith laugh as Skywalker used both blades to cut off his head. Anakin wondered why he laughed, and Dooku realized that Palpatine had one last trump card. But the two Force users didn't have time to think as the invisible hand was about to explode. Anakin took Dooku and held him up, and the dark side user wondered why he was saving him, and Anakin spoke to Dooku. "You may be my enemy, but you deserve to face the consequences of your actions, not immediate death." That was kinda anticlimactic coming from Skywalker since she just killed Palpatine, but they didn't have time. Anakin looked behind and he rushed to Obi-Wan, picking his head and body up. Dooku looked saddened at Obi-Wan's corpse. He was Qui-Gon's apprentice after all, but the Force users made it out as the Separatist ship exploded. They made it to an escape pod, but due to the explosion it knocked out the power, and the two realized they were stranded in space. Anakin and Dooku spent the next 3 days stranded. Luckily, a clone sweeping crew that was scanning the area for any sense of life managed to find them. Anakin and Dooku were sent to a medical facility where they were healed. Dooku went under surgery and was given new robotic hands, and Anakin recovered from the battle. But after, Obi-Wan's body was taken back to the Jedi Temple by a group of temple guards, and then the clones arrested Anakin and Dooku for crimes against the Republic. Dooku expected to be arrested, but didn't understand why Anakin was being taken into custody. The two were thrown into adjacent cells, and Anakin demanded to know what was going on. That was until he heard a clone call him a traitor. Anakin stepped back in shock, and Dooku finally understood what was happening. This was Palpatine's last trump card. Soon, Anakin would be visited by Yoda and Mace Windu, where they would inform him of what was happening. Apparently, a recording was sent galaxy-wide that showed Anakin Skywalker murdering the Chancellor. Skywalker and Dooku then understood that even from beyond the grave, Palpatine was still in control. The Chosen One told his side of the story about how Palpatine was a Sith Lord and how he killed Obi-Wan, but by working together, he and Dooku defeated Palpatine. The two masters were disturbed to learn this, but even if he was the Sith, the general public didn't even know what the Sith were. To them, it looked as if the hero of the Republic betrayed them all and killed their leader. Anakin understood the predicament and asked what was going to happen. Mace told Anakin that they were doing everything in their power to set him free, but the corruption ran all the way to the top. He would be put on trial, and if found guilty, Anakin would be executed. Skywalker sighed and thanked the masters, and he asked about Obi-Wan's body, and they told him about the funeral that was already held. Anakin stepped back and sat against the wall, placing his hands on his face. So much was happening. He lost his master, killed the Sith, and now he was imprisoned. It was just too much. But a beacon of hope appeared in his darkest hour when Padme visited Anakin and told him that she was pregnant. Skywalker was radiating joy, and he now knew that he couldn't give up no matter what. Padme told Anakin that she, along with other senators, were working with the Jedi to try and fix this. While Anakin was imprisoned alongside Dooku, Ahsoka and Rex captured Maul and took him back to the Jedi Temple, where he was placed in carbonite. Ahsoka and Rex heard what happened, and the two visited Anakin, and she heard about Obi-Wan. The Chosen One was glad to see his apprentice, but the trial was set for a few days from then. But Dooku told Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rex that he would help them to free Anakin and end this war. Ahsoka and Rex were apprehensive, but Anakin said that Dooku was turning over a new leaf. They trusted Anakin, so they went along with sort of trusting Dooku, but at that moment a bomb went off which exploded next to Anakin inside Dooku's cell. Skywalker was knocked back and passed out. When he awoke, all he saw was flames and all he felt was heat. He grimaced and realized Dooku must have been killed, but he looked in horror to see Rex and Ahsoka, or at least what was left of them. Rex died instantly, but Ahsoka had third-degree burns all over her body. Anakin's cell had been partially destroyed, so he was able to exit his cell and run to Ahsoka. She could only make non-verbal sounds as she reached for her master's face and caressed his cheek, wiping away a tear. And the Chosen One watched as his apprentice died in his arms. Anakin felt the darkness in him rise. Whoever was behind this would die. Just then, a group of clone troopers arrived and Anakin was surrounded. He looked at them in disgust, serving the corruption that led to the death of his master, his apprentice, and best friend. But in that moment, he realized that whoever did this wanted him to lash out, and he finally saw the fallacies of the dark side. He wouldn't succumb to his dark side tendencies anymore. He would do what his master and apprentice would want. Anakin was placed into force-restraining handcuffs and was not taken to the place where Ahsoka's trial was held, but to the Senate chambers. As Anakin was brought in before the Senate, he was kicked to the ground and brought to his knees by the clones. Anakin looked up and saw every senator murmuring amongst themselves, and from afar he saw Padme with Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, Yoda, Mace Windu, and a few other Jedi. The trial began with Mas Amedda with Tarkin by his side appearing at the center. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate and Republic, here we have the traitor who brutally murdered your Chancellor. Tarkin then showed the evidence once more with the recording of Anakin killing Palpatine. All of this was being broadcasted galaxy-wide, so everyone was watching this. Padme spoke up. Objection. We have proof that all of this is a sham. Mas Amedda laughed. A sham? Why, Miss Amidala, of course Skywalker's whore would come to his defense. But when we have solid evidence, what can you say against this? Anakin wanted to break free and beat Moss in the next week for that line, and the Jedi heard this and saw the reaction from Anakin, and Yoda and Mace Windu just grimaced and looked at one another. Padme spoke once more. She took a deep breath before speaking. My husband is the bravest man this galaxy has ever known. He's risked his life countless times in this war and has saved so many people. Tarkin spoke up this time. He was our hero, but now is the time to vote. As Maz was about to allow the Senate to vote, Padme nodded to the Jedi and out walked Count Dooku, who Maz was shocked to see. He thought that bounty hunter finished the job, but he looked in anger when he saw Boba Fett laughing and jetpack away in the distance. Dooku began speaking and revealed everything. Palpatine had been playing both sides of the war and was responsible for all of it. Dooku then showed chat logs and banking records that proved without a shadow of a doubt Palpatine was guilty, and he then told everyone that Anakin Skywalker was a hero for ending the threat of Palpatine as he planned to take over and form an empire with himself as emperor. With Dooku's testimony and the evidence to back it up, Anakin was found innocent and all the charges against him were dropped. Time passed and Dooku's trial was held, and instead of execution, since he helped to end all of this, he was simply given life in prison. Dooku was content with this. He knew Anakin would change things for the better. He would trust the boy Qui-Gon knew was the chosen one. Padme was elected to become the new Supreme Chancellor, and the Jedi Council voted whether to expel Anakin from the Order, but they voted against it, and instead, even though Ahsoka died, he killed the Sith and fulfilled his duty as the chosen one. Mace Windu personally gave him the rank of Master and told him that Obi-Wan would be proud, and Windu then told Anakin to have a seat, with Skywalker joining the council and taking Obi-Wan's place. General Grievous had escaped the Invisible Hand, but was located on Utapau, and Kit Fisto was sent to destroy him, and Fisto was able to. With Grievous's death, the Separatist Council was arrested on Mustafar, and the Clone Wars came to an end. Mas Amedda and Tarkin, along with every other senator, politician, or military personnel tied to Palpatine, were arrested thanks to Dooku. Padme would give birth to Luke and Leia, and when the time came, they would be trained as Jedi. Luke would become Mace Windu's apprentice, and Leia would become Yoda's final student in his old life. Yoda would pass away, and Luke and Leia would become knights. Anakin would become the next Grand Master and shape the Jedi and galaxy into a new age, with his wife, children, and his new Jedi Order by his side. Alright, and that's the story. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's talk about it. Now, definitely kind of a different one, especially like the ending aspect. Usually, I have like a final fight, but instead I just decided to add that at the beginning. I definitely like the trial and prison aspects of Anakin in this one. That he was found guilty, pretty much Palpatine framed him, and bro was gonna get executed if he was found guilty, and but the whole thing was just a setup from the very beginning. Moss and Tarkin were in on it all along. I probably didn't need to murk off Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, but I feel that it would just add to the story and Anakin's character in this as a whole. But I also just wanted to kind of bring Dooku back to the light, or make him see the consequences of his actions, and pretty much have them pretty much just team up with Anakin to take out Palpatine. Overall, I had fun writing this, and if you want to see more from me, go check out my other channels. But if you want to see an idea of yours and made into a video or a short, then donate to the Cash App, which will be linked down below as well. But with all that out of the way, I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.